Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously, Bai was accepted as a disciple to become an immortal. In the immortal realm, Bai would discover that his chosen walk is able to double the power of anything he puts in it. However, he loses some lifespan when he does. Later, Bai heads to the bloodstream sector in search of the relic of eternity. He wears a disguise to conceal his identity, and after 5 years, he somehow ends up battling his way to becoming Bloodmaster of one of the 5 peaks, and earning the Bloodmaster's inheritance. He eventually finds that the relic of eternity seems to just be a turtle shell, and leaves the bloodstream sector without anyone ever finding out his real identity. The story continues as Yizheng approaches the border of the bloodstream sector. Once he crosses, he will be in the spirit stream sector's territory. Yizheng points out that every clan and every beast he has met on his journey has shown him a great deal of respect, and it's all because of his status as Bloodmaster. Bai then compliments himself for being far too upstanding and principled, as he is giving up all of it for the spirit stream sector. Yizheng is then upset to see that he is being attacked, as his attacker explains that there is a war approaching, and anyone trying to cross the border is a spy. They attack him, and Yizheng recognizes a strange singing tree as it attacks him as well. Unfortunately for the tree, Bai isn't the same weakling he was over 5 years ago. He explains that this has been the only clan that dared to attack him since leaving, and slices their tree in half, just as we see that its essence goes to Bai's turtle shell. Just then, the elder of the clan begs Yizheng to stop, as the tree is a unique treasure of his clan, and is needed for an important task for the sector. If it were to get destroyed, then his clan would be punished severely. Yizheng asks that if this task is more important than showing respect to a Bloodmaster, and the elder apologizes while exclaiming that it isn't, as they have made a grave mistake. The tree is currently serving as a defensive campsite, and it thought he was an intruder. Yizheng is curious, since if the tree is so unique, then why did the Lucian clan have the same tree? The elder then furiously explains that not everyone was on board with allowing the Lucian clan to defect to their side. However, Patriarch Nian insisted, and his clan was even forced to offer one of the tree's seeds as a gift. Yizheng accepts this answer just as he notices that the relic of eternity is responding to something and leaves. When he is alone, Bai thinks about how if he hadn't left as quickly as he did, they might have detected the relic's spiritual energy fluctuation. He can't believe how amazing the fog around the tree was, since it seems to be what has caused the boring turtle shell to show some signs of coming back to life. Bai is surprised to see that a look inside the shell shows the universe, but then a turtle comes out. It returns immediately though, so Bai shakes it until it comes out again, but this time something strange happens. Spiritual energy bursts out of it and makes Bai's crystallized spiritual sea show signs of expanding. Bai then stimulates the spiritual sea and shockingly discovers that spiritual energy from the turtle is better than cultivating for an entire month. Bai finally realizes that the turtle really is a treasure, as cultivating with it will allow him to achieve double the results with half the effort. Back in the spirit stream sector, Yuan explains that he had put some of Bai's aura into a spiritual energy sensing pendant to be able to detect his location. However, for some reason, not long after he left, the pendant lost its effect, so all Yuan can do is ask that the ancestors in heaven watch over him. Just then, the pendant begins to react, and we see that it's because Yizheng has reached the entrance of the spirit stream sector. He wonders if he will be resented for being gone for so long, and tests out a few different ways to greet his old friends. Yizheng wonders why he is more nervous now than when he entered the bloodstream sector, and remembers that he can't return to the spirit stream sector without removing his Yizheng disguise first. Then, for the first time in over 5 years, the spirit stream sector's elder Bai returns. Just then, Zen's pendant cracks and he realizes exactly what it means, as it's a bad omen. Bai walks along and is glad to see that his efforts in putting up a fence back in the day were not in vain, as it saved the ecological balance of the spirit stream sector. However, the chickens inside still remember him as the chicken thief. As he continues walking, he gives some advice to some younger disciples on the medicinal path, and they wonder who he is. Walking past the 10 monuments, Bai thinks about how he didn't mean to create a legend so carelessly back then, when he created his little turtle alter ego. It seems to now have put a lot of pressure on the younger generation of disciples, so he encourages them by stating that they can definitely surpass the little turtle one day. Bai then continues walking through the spirit stream sector, as everyone wonders who this mysterious person is that walks so confidently through the sector. The man that loves spreading rumors hands out collectible portraits of the legendary elder Bai, and Bai himself shockingly arrives to sign them. He makes sure to tell the kids to treasure this moment, but the kid has no clue who he is and cries about his portrait being ruined. Bai then speaks to the spirit stream sector as a whole, and proclaims that its Heavenly Path Foundation establishment genius of the medicinal path, its living honored disciple Bai, has returned. Everyone in the sector hears the announcement, but it isn't received well. Disciples cry out that there must be no justice in heaven as the elixir refining psycho has returned. Bai reaches the market center to greet his fellow disciples, but finds that it has been abandoned. The reality begins to set in that even though so many years have passed, it still can't erase the gloom in their hearts. Bai feels like he can still hear the laughter from the past, and finds that it's actually because the people of the town have rushed back to see the legendary Marshal Bai. Bai is glad to see everyone so happy and is taken away by an old friend. It's Mei, who is all grown up now. She asks if he will ever leave again, but Bai assures her that he won't. Mei points out how he has been gone for so long and would like to hear all the stories from his journey. Bai tells her just a couple stories and she is immediately worried about him, but Bai explains that there is nothing to worry about. Since when someone like him swings a sword, cultivators of any realm kneel and swear allegiance to him. With one look, countless strong individuals bow in fear of him. Nascent level patriarchs praise him and even want to adopt him as their son. Mei then points out that on such a long journey, he surely must have met a girl he liked. Bai tries to explain that it's a long story, but Mei then just encourages him to take his time. Luckily for him, the Spirit Stream Sector's Patriarch summons him to the Ancestral Hall immediately. Just then, Bai's adopted Beast King's son arrives, and is clearly disappointed to see that Bai has already left, so he is assured by Mei that Bai will return for him. Afterwards, Bai is scolded by Yuan, who explains that he shouldn't have hid his aura. They told all outsiders he was in seclusion, and they turned the entire Spirit Stream Sector over looking for him. Bai apologizes and vows that he is now ready to refine elixirs for the sector to make amends. Yuan explains that a war is coming and they have already deployed the first group of cultivators to Fallen Star Mountain. He asks that Bai do his best to hone his strength as he will be sent into battle with the fourth deployment of cultivators. Yuan has one more request of Bai though, and that is to kill one of the Bloodstream Sector's 4 Bloodmasters, the one named Yizang. Of course, Bai is shocked to hear this as Yizang is his alter ego, but he composes himself and dramatically explains how he has heard stories of this Yizang character. He has heard that he is brutal, deranged, and will commit any crime imaginable. Bai expresses his excitement to finally have the opportunity to execute this horrible person, and Yuan is shocked to hear just how much Bai knows about him. Yuan is confident that Bai can accomplish this task, and states that if he can, then an exception will be made for him to qualify for the Legacy Echelon. Yuan explains that one normally would need to achieve a golden core within 2 60-year cycles to qualify for this rank, and this is the very reason why Master Li spends so much time in closed-door cultivation. Bai is reminded of how he hasn't seen Li yet, as Yuan states how the position of Legacy Echelon is transcendent. They head outside where the tribulation clouds have appeared, and Yuan explains that it is a sign of core condensation. Li has reached the critical point where he will either have a promising future or his cultivation will collapse. Sometime later, it is announced that the Chief of Fragrant Mountain, Elder Li, has within 2 60-year cycles achieved a golden core, and has now received the rank of Legacy Echelon. Li is congratulated by everyone and surprised when his young disciple Bai returns to greet him all grown up. Bai instantly congratulates him and apologizes for making him worry, but explains that he never neglected his training. Li points out how tall he has gotten and is amazed to see that Bai's cultivation is at the 3rd level of spiritual seed crystallization, but thinks to himself how that won't be enough. Li is then informed about the status of the war and how their first batch of cultivators has already been deployed. An update of the Profound Stream Sector's invasion of the Pillstream Sector reveals that they have already subdued half of the Pillstream's cultivators. The Pillstream's final gate is currently under siege, and if the Profound Stream completes their takeover, then their power will expand unprecedentedly. The Bloodstream is headed towards the Spirit Stream to begin a war with them, and Bai wonders if there is something they can do to stop it, but Li explains that the battle is unavoidable. Li then reveals to Bai that he had just sensed his cultivation level, and requests that Bai come with him somewhere. Bai is curious as to why they're in such a rush, but Li just begins to explain that the heaven-reaching river overflows in all directions, but the spiritual power and where they are going seems to be concentrated in one spot. Li is surprised to see that Bai has already noticed it, and Bai uses his Eyes of the Law to reveal Purple Mountains. He moves a bit further and is amazed to see the hidden peak of the 9th mountain reveal itself. Li explains that only those with the Spirit Stream's inheritance has seen what he just saw, and the two greet the Patriarch. The Patriarch is furious though, as he states that Bai has not reached Legacy Echelon and has seen something he has no right to see. This is Bai's first time meeting the Spirit Stream Sector's Patriarch, known as the Perfect Being named Timu. Timu plans to make Bai pay for his crime, but Bai apologizes, and Timu is amazed to see how with just a foundation establishment cultivation, Bai was somehow able to withstand his pressure and even had spare strength to speak. Timu lets Bai off with a warning, but Bai realizes that the old man was just testing his strength. Bai realizes exactly what he must do and apologizes once again while offering the Patriarch an elixir he refined. Timu points out how someone of his status has no use for elixirs, and Li explains that people can't just offer any regular elixir to a Patriarch. Bai explains how he only used the finest ingredients while maintaining the furnace with earthly fire for several months, and the elixir's potency is so strong that even the Patriarch must exercise caution when taking it. Bai explains his devotion to the Spirit Stream sector, and so Timu agrees to accept the elixir. Timu acknowledges Bai's intelligence and explains to Li that his repeated messages begging him to grant Bai an inheritance will not be in vain. Bai is then given a scroll explaining the Patriarch's special power called the Flora Weaponizing Arts. Once Bai cultivates it properly, all the flora in the world can be transformed into battle power. Bai stares at a pendant hanging from the Patriarch's belt as the Patriarch explains how learning the technique will take time. Bai continues to stare as he explains that he will be going to war soon and may not survive. Timu can tell exactly what Bai is getting at and graciously decides to give Bai the jade pendant for defense. It is a core formation grade defensive spiritual treasure. Anyone below the nascent soul level will not be able to break through its defense. As he leaves, Timu explains that Bai's cultivation is still shallow, but if he infuses it with heavenly vein energy, then he can use it ahead of his level. Li wonders what elixir Bai gave the Patriarch, and he explains that it was his most precious and celebrated elixir in the Spirit Stream sector that he painstakingly created by himself. However, when Li realizes that it's Bai's profound dream elixir, he takes off, calling Bai a stinking brat. That night, Li explains that Bai won't be punished, but points out that he will have to master the secret technique quickly. Li prepares to help Bai master it and explains that the Flora Weaponizing Arts is a remarkable method that transforms the life force of Flora into battle power. Roots emerge from the ground as he explains how to transform the Flora into a formation, and states that every formation becomes a weapon. The formation pulls Bai inside, and Li explains that hidden under the tree's roots is a spiritual core. Bai must shatter it and merge it with his own cultivation. His first attempt at shattering the core fails instantly. On his second attempt though, Bai pushes much harder as the roots pull him in, but he eventually overcomes them and destroys the core. After destroying the giant tree's spiritual core, Bai then integrates the power of the flora with his cultivation, and further understands the fundamentals of flora weaponizing. Li asks that Bai give complete focus as he wants him to learn all 18 methods of medicinal warfare contained in the scripture. While Bai trains, he thinks about how Li asked that he stick with him in battle, but Bai does not want to become a burden to his master and decides that he must do something to speed up his cultivation. Bai then turns to the turtle shell that he went through so much hardship and life-threatening situations to obtain. He forces the little turtle out of its shell and determines that with the fragrance it emits, he can definitely make much faster progress. While Bai does that, we get a glimpse of how Tidon transforms from his younger self to his older self in an instant. Thanks to his sped up cultivation, Bai is able to crystallize the 4th sea level, and is surprised to see that his adopted Beast King's son has come to see him. Bai points out how his son's cultivation seems to be catching up to his, and praises Tidon for diligently cultivating every single day. Bai can't help but notice that Tidon's face has an expression of being wronged, but is surprised to find that Tidon was actually very well taken care of. Tidon directs Bai outside, where he is shocked to see all of the Northern Bank's war beasts just standing there, and realizes that Tidon must be controlling them all. Just then, a pillar of light reveals that the second batch of Spirit Stream disciples will be setting out to the Lucian territory to fight for their sector. The next day, Bai searches for a way to increase his strength in such a way that he will be able to stop the war from happening. His search leads him to the river-defying pill. It stimulates life force inside the body, providing formidable strength for a short period of time. It is refined from heaven-reaching river water, doesn't require any plants, and doesn't need a pill furnace. Bai is now very confident that this pill will help his cultivation improve. Just then, Senki arrives nearby to ask Tianyu for advice on overcoming a bottleneck in her training. Tianyu assures her that he can help and explains that she is doing far better than the laziest person in the sector, Bai. Bai won't be belittled and is determined to show Xingqi Tianyu's true colors. Tianyu brags to Xingqi about his latest breakthrough, but Bai arrives to explain that no matter how skilled someone is, there will always be someone better. Bai then begins to reach into the heaven-reaching river, but Tianyu points out that Bai is merely at foundation establishment, and someone as weak as him won't be able to touch the water without being dissolved by it. The two are then shocked to see that Bai has successfully done it, and he arrogantly states that at their current level, it's still too early for them to understand the secret behind what he did. Bai states that he will one day share his knowledge with Xingqi, and regurgitates something he had heard the Patriarch say. Xingqi is amazed by Bai's growth and points out that he has an aura similar to the Patriarch's. Bai then returns home very proud of himself, and asks his son to stand guard as he will now begin refining the river-defying pill. Inside, Bai attempts to change the water into gas, and then the gas into a pill. This doesn't go well at all, and since Bai was using his body as a furnace, it begins to expand rapidly. Bai heads outside where he asks that his son take cover just as his body explodes. This is when Bai realizes that he won't be able to refine the pill at his current stage, and decides to search for another way to protect everyone. Just then, his old friends return to greet him for the first time in 5 years, and they all celebrate that night. They all drink and catch up on what's happened over the years, but Zheng then brings up Yizheng of the bloodstream sector. He explains how Yizheng had come to show off his deduction skills, and Zheng was so shocked at how much he knew that he began to think Yizheng actually was Bai. They continue to reminisce about the past and bring out Bai's favorite meal, spirit-tailed chicken. Mei arrives soon after with snacks as well, and they all remember how the psycho chicken thief had almost eaten the spirit-tailed chicken out of existence. They all continue to drink the night away, but a fight over a jug of wine ensues. Bai and Zheng chase after the jug, and the two use their powerful hand-to-hand combat to fight over the wine. Bai easily takes control though, and Zheng gives up as he realizes that Bai is now the most powerful person in the sector, and fighting against him is boring now. Zheng thinks Huyan would be a more formidable opponent, so Huyan steps up to make his attempt at taking the jug away from Bai. Huyan does far better than Zheng, but still falls short of defeating Bai. Huyan admits defeat, but Mei is next to go after the jug. Bai is temporarily caught off guard, and Mei manages to destroy it. She explains that he clearly let her win, just like always, and explains that her cultivation is not yet strong enough for war. She has always hid behind their strength, but no longer wants to be a burden, and now wants to fight alongside them. Bai acknowledges her determination and declares that they will all fight alongside one another to protect the sector. At one of the camps bordering the bloodstream sector, the sector's Patriarch Nian explains that he has dispatched men to gather information. Even if they have been captured by the spirit stream, he does not believe that they would execute them. Instead, they will likely use them to stop the bloodstream sector's attack. His plan is to rescue them before that happens, but reveals that their spy is actually Wan. We then get a glimpse as Jun stares at the sun and wonders where Yizheng has gone. Elsewhere, Bai thinks about how he was told by Zheng that he is like the fire in the kitchen stove. He must never be distinguished. Zheng then must go as he is part of the next group of cultivators being sent into battle. Before he does, he explains that he isn't like Bai. He is an uncouth person without much talent, and in this battle, he will be on the front lines. Zheng states that as long as he can shed blood to protect the spirit stream sector, then he did not live his life in vain. His last request to Bai is sadly that he remembers to place a jar of good wine for him in front of the matriarch's monument. Bai then thinks about how everyone's goal is to protect their sector, but he can't help but wonder how many people from both sectors will die because of it. Bai himself is uncertain if he will even survive the war, as he notices that Mei is hiding her fears so he doesn't get worried. He realizes that everyone is being considerate of his feelings, but he is determined to protect all of them. Bai urges himself to not be afraid and hesitate anymore. He proclaims that he will stand up this time and stop the war, even if it means that he will have to face the wrath of both sectors. Thanks for watching part 24, 6,000 likes and I'll know you want on part 25. Also, all other parts are in the link comment below.